It does take a superhuman effort. Absolutely. Like you have to work hard. And admittedly, well, the thing is, I worked really hard. I just wasn't successful. I mean, it sounds funny because I was successful in a lot of ways, but that one thing I could not conquer myself. I needed a tool. I needed a pencil. I couldn't, I was done writing in blood. I needed a pencil. And I think one of the most important things that people need to realize is that it does take hard work, but if you put the hard work in the right places, on the right levers, that's when it releases, right? Because now you know you have systems, you just do things the same way. Now, simple, not easy, but to get there, once you get there and you have that identity, this is what I do, you roll with that and then you build on that identity, you build on those systems so that the next season, or a bit sometimes, is less work. Or more importantly, more work on the things that are your zone of genius.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Kronos Group Podcast. I am your host, Jerry Brazy. Got a great guest, Dr. Maureen Gibbons. People call her Dr. Mo. Let me tell you about her. She is a physician, an Ironman, and the founder of AMS Lifestyle Medicine. And really, it's not even really get started. The interesting part is she spent years doing what so many successful high performers do, working nights in the ER, raising a family, having a ton of responsibility, holding it all together, all things that anyone listening to this will recognize. And instead of crashing out, she made a deliberate shift, it sounds like, and we'll talk to her about it. She rebuilt her health. She rebuilt her work and her life around freedom instead of kind of the 9-to-5 grind and the endurance, and almost by accident from what it looks like from my research, and replaced her full-time income and gave her life back. Now she works with high achievers who look fine on the outside. Let me try that again. But are exhausted underneath, people who aren't broken, just overloaded. I know that'll resonate with a lot of people listening. So she's here to talk about health in terms of freedom, not punishing yourself necessarily, and say that nobody finds her by accident. So here she is. Dr. Mo, I could not be happier to have you on. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for having me. And the first thing I'm going to call out is we often talk about rebuilding our health or rebuilding our confidence, but for some of us, we never had it. And especially, I mean, I'm 52 years old and I'm discovering things. There's nothing rebuilding about a lot of the things that I'm doing. I never had it. I'm just a slow learner in some respects. It takes me a while to get there. And I don't want people to ever feel like, I know what this feels like, or I should have had this before, or should have had it earlier. It's in your time.
Yeah, you are where you are now and do what you can in that environment. I appreciate that. Let's go back before we start talking about the reasons you're here. The folks always like to hear what the backstory is. Where were you raised? What part of the world? Kind of give us that prior to becoming Dr. Mo and what you've done with that. Let's talk about kind of where you come from and what your background is.
Yep. I grew up outside of Buffalo, New York, and I was in the Great Lakes. So I was an athletic trainer, went to grad school in Western Michigan for grad school to be an athletic trainer. Went to St. Bonaventure for undergrad for biology and pre-med, and was told that I wouldn't make it into medical school, so don't apply. And they were right, as much as I hate to admit it. I would never have made it through.
It didn't feel like that at the time.
So I went to grad school for athletic training. Yeah, I went to grad school for athletic training, worked for 6 years, and then during that time, my husband and I studied for the MCAT, retook prerequisites, did the things we had to do, and went back to medical school at 28.
So when they told you that at the time, that you probably weren't going to make it, how did you take that?
Not very well.
Right.
I thought, external locus of control style, it's all about them. I would do fine. I would have failed out. I would have, and then of course you end up with $200,000. It's a lot more now, but I'm old. And $200,000 in debt without that degree to go back and pay it off. So at the time, I graduated from college when I was 22. I did not have a strong internal locus of control. I was more I studied hard, but I didn't get the grade. No, you didn't earn the grade. That's how that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maturity comes along. It does a fascinating thing. So at 28, you were probably, I'm going to assume you can tell us, more ready to take on medical school than you would have been at 22.
That didn't come without problems, though. I was very driven. My husband and I, we didn't have a child until much later. And I was very driven, but it also made me very hypercritical. I was always hypercritical in my own head, but it sort of bled out because if you were in my journey, you had to do the work because I wasn't going to let you hold me back. Not a very nice. Again, I swung the other way. I went from I could control nothing to I could control the entire universe. Sometimes it doesn't go over with the people that love you.
Yes, yeah. For in my own life, I started my first company at 28 years old, and I became. It's the same year I became a father first for the first time, and then I started my first company. And I say I don't know that I would have been the father that I like to think that I was. And my kids are within 5 minutes of me here in Tennessee, and they're all in their 20s and they're great kids. But I don't think I would have been the father I was had I had them at 20 or 22 years old the way I was at 28. Because when he showed up at 28, my first son, I mean, 1 second my wife was pregnant. The next second she's no longer pregnant, and I have a son, and my life changed.
Yeah.
And I looked at the world in a completely different way. And everything I have done since goes back to that moment. Now, certainly it's dependent on all of the things that happened to me, but I just wasn't mature enough at 22 to recognize what I was capable of the way that I did at 28. I was still an a-hole. There's no two ways around it. And that lasted almost into my 40s. I'd like to think I finally outgrew it, but I think that's what you're saying. And I'm not out of that. But I really looked at the world differently at 28. And I think for a lot of the young guys, the young people that are listening to this, you're not the same person at 28 or 30 that you are at 22.
No, no. And I always got along with, you had mentioned a lot of your listeners are young men. I've always gotten along with men more than women until I've gotten to this level because this level, the women I'm around are just different. We've reached a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And I was an athletic trainer, hanging out in locker rooms. I mean, this is just what I've done. It's kind of what I've always done. And I resonate with that. And again, sometimes that doesn't, you're right. I was an a-hole. I'm still working on it. Some days things come out and I'm like, really don't do that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Again, with age. So, in that context, then you become a doctor and you're doing all of the doctor things. Take us through that.
So I love emergency medicine. I still do. I always will. That's been a long time coming for me to accept that fact. 2 years out of, almost, I think it's 2 years to the day that I left the main hospital I worked in. It was my second job. I worked there for 13 years overnight, same hospital, same department, loved it. And that became the core of that professional career for me. And being on nights, I forced myself into, I like nights. I like to think it's a circadian rhythm, but I still think it's rebellion from childhood. I'm going to be honest.
Right.
But I love working nights. When I work in the ER, I work nights. And part of that is I was the only doctor, the first half of my career, I was the only doctor in the hospital. So if
Mm.
somebody was dying in the ER and somebody was dying upstairs, we had to make a choice. And we had to figure out how to not have either of those go in that direction. And things are a little bit different now, especially in that hospital. It's grown, we're in a pretty populated area. But my career was always, I was mentored very early by a couple of great people, and I had shift goals. Every shift I would go in and I would have a shift goal for myself, ready? Internal locus of control. Like you can't control the chaos, but you can control you. And sometimes it worked better than others.
Mm-hmm.
I had protected sleep time. I worked out. I did 7 Ironmans in that started 9, finished 7 in that time span. And that journey was so much growth for me, but I didn't really see it. And as I was growing, the container wasn't growing. The container was the same. So it was making me a different person. I started having different thoughts. I started to fall into the fact that I needed systems in my life, just like a trauma, airway, breathing, circulation. It's just things happen. I craved systems in work and in life that I just didn't have. And sometimes I didn't know how to create. But as I started to grow and create those, it really started to pull on that entrepreneur side again. I've been coaching for 35 years through everything. And it started to pull me back. It started to be that one thing like, listen, yes, you've taken care of patients for a long time. Now it's time to take care of the people who take care of patients. And then that expanded to other high achievers because we all kind of think the same way.
So you're going through that process then. It sounds like you are in doing what you want. You're enjoying yourself. Is there, I don't know if enjoying, you just sound like that's what you wanted to be doing
Yeah.
and you enjoyed it. At what point then do you say to yourself, I'm going to go do something else because of why? What was the reason? You're in shape, you're healthy, you have the husband, the job that you like, the circadian rhythms are working for you in the middle of the night, all of those things, and yet you gave it up.
I got pushed out of my job. Let's
Okay.
call this what it is. I was on the I was leaving. I was leaving anyhow. And I probably never would have left completely had my immediate boss said, "You need to go. You don't belong here anymore." Not in those words. Those are actually nicer than the words that were used. And I had been there for 13 years, which really destabilized the group, the physician group. And I got a bunch of phone calls after, and they're like, "Holy crap! If this happened to you, we're toast." And no, because I didn't fit anymore. I just didn't. I couldn't see it because I loved my job. So I always loved my job. So when I left, it was about a year and a half of an identity crisis for me, full on. I still struggle with a little bit here and there, but it was a full on identity crisis on figuring out how I was working in a small emergency department, same system, but obviously not what I was doing before. It was that shift. That's why my book is called Freedom to Shift, because that shift stands for success happens in focus transitions. I don't like being blindsided, and that was a pretty big blindside. So when you can take that transition and make it your own and say, "Okay, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do?" Well, it happened because I had grown. So I had to lean into the growth. I almost didn't have a choice. I feel like I didn't have a choice. Now, looking back, even my husband said the easiest thing to do would have been to find another job like the one you had,
Mhm.
but I couldn't.
So I had an employee, I've told the story many times, and she was working for me in a transportation company, and she had come from a very rough background, and she was doing a good job, and she had worked her way up in the business, but she got to a point of responsibility where she was no longer being effective with the people necessarily.
Mm.
And so she was fantastic, and it really was one of those firings that I remember because it just was not working. And at that point, I couldn't put her anywhere else. And she simply had to go. She had a ton of upside and she was good at her job. She just wasn't good at the back and forth with the people that the responsibility required of her. And so I fired her. And she came back into my office about 5 years later. And she'd moved from the West Coast out to Chicago, where she was dispatching for a large trucking firm. And she came back to the office, walked in the door unannounced, asked for me. Out I come. And I said, "Hello, how are you? How you been?" And she said, "I just wanted to come back and thank you for firing me." And I said, "Okay." And she said, I hated you for 2 years. And then I saw that you were right. And my growth over these last 5 years, I'm in a much better place. I'm in a much better job. I'm making a lot more money. She had a kid. She got married. She said, "Your firing changed my life. I just didn't realize it for a year and a half," to use your example.
Yep.
Is there a parallel there for you?
Oh, 100%. 100%. My frontal lobe knew that this was the best thing that ever happened to me
Mm-hmm.
because I was really never going to invest in the book, the coaching, pouring myself into other people, sending the elevator back down. I was never going to have enough energy with that as a baseline. I knew it. I knew it, but it was so hard.
Yeah.
And one of the best quotes that I heard from someone is every job has an expiration date. And that floored me, right? Because when you go to medical school or law school or get your MBA, you think, you're just going to keep climbing or stay stable or be in that profession forever. And yes, I'm in medicine. I'm actually very little in the medical part of it these days because the coaching has always been my forte, but I never would have seen it had he not cracked that open.
Yeah, it's a good lesson. A good lesson in there. Let's talk about then. Now you're going on to the next step of your life, but I want to back up a little bit and talk about health. So, a quick backstory on me: I was relatively healthy most of my life. I come from a very, very brutal background, and so I grew up tough. But started my own business at 28. And at 38, I got hit with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I had that sat dormant in me. And at 38, it decided to grow. And I have a 40% block in my left ventricle out of nowhere. So over the next 15 years, I, of course, abused myself, and my health is starting to get worse and worse. I'm on 19 drugs a day. I broke my back when I was 19 years old. So I had a 25-year opioid addiction. And November 21st of 21, I was laying in a hospital down 4 pints of blood in the emergency room dying. And I decided I wasn't going to die. And I'd done all these things and, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, been very successful in business, but I was dying. And for me, I said, no, I don't have grandkids yet. I'm not going out this way. Like, I'm not going to have, I didn't have grandparents. I'm not going out this way. And so for me, I changed January 1st, 2022. I lost 110 pounds in 8.5 months. And for me, again, I broke back. I quit all my opioids. I quit everything cold turkey. I take one medicine now today for my heart. That's it. 30 pounds of muscle. I've never felt healthier at 57 years old than I do right now. My whole point in saying all that isn't to brag. It's to say that I learned that you can be successful in other things, absolutely, regardless of what kind of shape you are in or what your health is. I'll use that more broadly. But the reality is that success in however you deem success, for me, is downstream of my health. And all of those other things are so much easier, having gone. That's why I described what I've gone through, to give it perspective, are so much easier because it starts with my health. So I think everything is downstream of health: physical, emotional, spiritual, all of those things. And that has been a really neat awakening for me as I've gotten older. I feel younger. So with that context, the question in all of this is, what are your thoughts on that?
I feel exactly the same. And, my path is not as dramatic, I'd like to say. I lost 50 pounds that I've struggled with my entire life. How many times have I lost that 50 pounds? More than I can count. No, but this time it's been successful, right? Because until you find the systems, whatever those systems are that works for you, it has to be sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
The day that I embarked on a health journey and a business journey at the same time, when I told myself I'm never paying another dollar for a business coach, I'm done. I was 2 months post Ironman attempt, couldn't make it. Like I said, I was 50 pounds heavier. It's just, I've battled food addiction my entire life. And I know people will say you can't be addicted to food. Listen, let's just say my brain has been taken up by a lot of that for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
45 plus. And so that journey started for me July 4th, 2022, which was my Independence Day. And from that day on, people see me now and they're like, but you did Ironmans. I'm like, yes, I've done an Ironman anywhere between 120 and 160 pounds. And I'll tell you which one's easier at 5'4".
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And everything is better with bandwidth. And I talk about it incessantly in my book, annoyingly in my book, because when I was trying to figure out how to monetize my coaching in a world where I could really help people, like in my profession, my big boss came in one morning and he was working a shift. And I'll never forget, he said to me, the only way to stay in emergency medicine long-term is to go part-time. Because I told him, I know I could be a better doctor if I just had more bandwidth. And I never connected that to my health, right? Because like you said, I was sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day. I was working out most days of the week. I was doing the things. I was trying. I don't like the word because trying is asking for credit for failure. I could not override my biology and maintain a long-term, clean, appropriately sized food intake. Just data driven. Let's just go completely data. And I could not maintain it long term. You can call me a moral failure all you'd like. I'm okay with it. I don't care because now I'm succeeding. And what I realize is that eventually it will come back to health. I mean, it's a flywheel, right? It's like a roundabout in London. There's a lot of places to get on, but you're going to go through health one way or the other.
Yeah, right. Right. That's really good. Along those lines, for me, I carried all my weight out front. So I hadn't seen my shoes in God knows how long. And I did carnivore. I have no allegiance to any way of eating other than I thought, what can I do successfully? And I was like, well, I can eat eggs and I can eat steak. I like all of those things. And so I was like, I can't eat crackers or rice this or any of that. I don't, that's just not sustainable for me. So everyone can tell me what I should eat, but if I'm still 100 pounds overweight, it's not doing me any good, right?
Right.
And so in that context, I did the carnivore diet, and I remember I stood up on day 9, and I was like, I can't do it. It was January 10th, day 9. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm not going to make it. I got to go eat whatever's in the kitchen. And as I stood up, I couldn't see my feet, and I looked down, and I realized, oh, I have this huge gas tank in front of me. I have all of the energy that I need. How am I hungry? And I realized I wasn't fighting the gas tank. I wasn't fighting the belly. To your point, I was fighting up here, and I had to learn how to fight that brain. And I think that's an important lesson for people, that it's not your body that you're fighting. It's your brain that you're fighting. You said that a few minutes ago, I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but expand on that a little bit. Let's flesh that out a little bit, how important it is to realize the body's there. As an Ironman, you understand the body's there, and it's going to do what you tell it. It's here where you fail.
And I think although they're connected 100%, we ignore the fact that your brain is the driver. I mean, I always joke that if my frontal lobe was driving the bus, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
Mm-hmm.
It's the brainstem. It's those hunger drives. I was put on my first diet at age 1. My doctor told my mom, you got to take her off whole milk. She won't stop eating. Now, that tells me, I don't think I obviously, well, it was a coping skill of sorts, but I didn't have the cognitive ability to change that. So your frontal lobe's not really developed when you're 12 months old. So when you think about that, it reminds us that even though it's your brain, it's still biology. And if the signals and pathways are messed up in your brain, like any other, I mean, like you've conquered opioid addiction, which is absolutely incredible. That predilection will always be there. Those neural highways, they're paved, they're there. You fall back in, the elevator doesn't stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about this, we have to remember it is biology. So if you have to find whatever system it is for you that makes you not do the thing that's going to bring you back into that pit.
For me, it was, again, I had no aunts or uncles or grandparents or any of those things in a Lord of the Flies existence as a child. And so I was committed when I had children starting at 28. They were not going to have the life I did. That's what pushed me into entrepreneurship and all of those things. So as I was dying at 51, 52, and I have unborn grandchildren, I was like, no, I'm going to watch them graduate. So from high school and college. And I have this heart issue. I got work to do. And so for me, that became the catalyst, absolutely the battle cry for me. And everything that I did was about getting to where my unborn grandchildren are going to graduate from college. So I had something that I've pointed to, and I'm pointing it to here now, it's been 5 years, to you, saying that was really every day. I was like, no, don't eat that food. Every day, go for a walk. Every day, push through the pain. Every day, because I'm going to be a grandparent the same way I said to myself I was going to be a parent. So I had something visceral over and above anything else to really live for, if you will, not to be too dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Is that coming the kind of the road to Damascus moment that most people need?
I don't think that moment works for most people. From what I've seen in the ER. When you say you couldn't see your toes, I call that a CPR belly, because you're going to see that coming in, bouncing up and down one of these days.
Right. Yeah.
And, I always said, I see people, I saw things that people shouldn't see, normal people shouldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell people, again, like ERs would be out of business. No, they wouldn't be. There's always plenty of business. But I don't think an event like that works for everybody. Unfortunately, even the identity shift that you had, I mean, it was remarkable that you committed to taking that and making it your identity. No, I am a grandparent. And guess what? Not there yet. Gotta live till tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And that made you check the boxes, do the things. Those are systems, right? And, my husband's a lot the same way. I did not have the willpower to do it. I'll be 100% honest.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, if people, I started my business by accident, because July 4th, 2022, I started Mounjaro. bad press galore. Here we go. Ruined it for a lot of people, which I really find disheartening. And
I'm sorry, just let me interrupt you 1 second, just to flesh that out a second. It comes up all the time. You're saying that in the context, one of the examples I use is if you have to lose 100 pounds on an all sugar diet, I think you should go do it, because being 100 pounds less is
yes,
healthier than being on an all sugar diet at 300 pounds. Is that
correct.
kind of your context? If there is side effects to Mounjaro, it's better to be down the weight?
Yes, every day you spend not getting healthier is a day you spend getting sicker.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make
No, and I
sure
think
that
that's
I understood
perfect
what you were saying
because,
there.
like you said, you have this gas tank and it's full. But see, here's the problem when you have all that excess adipose tissue, to maybe dive a little too deep, more than you'd like, into this health part. When you have excess adipose tissue, it affects the way you think, it affects the way your body works. It becomes its own endocrine organ and starts secreting chemicals and hormones that change the way your brain works, the way your gut works. You will not win
Mm-hmm.
unless something drastically changes. And if you don't have the capability to do that, you need to use whatever tools are available. And when people are worried about side effects, for example, like you said, I mean, there are 13 obesity related cancers. And I'm not just talking, this isn't about the obesity. Because when I tell you my story about the day I took it, you're going to be like, what?
Mm.
So, because I didn't lose an ounce, but 8 hours after I took the medication, my brain was quiet.
Mm.
And I didn't even realize it was loud.
Almost. So the benefit that you were anticipating helped change that mindset.
Yes.
Fascinating.
So, and it's not because what it does is yes, it does change the way your gut works, blah, 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 has side effects, works with the pancreas, works with insulin. We can call it like we can dissect it out into black and white. But what it does is it brings your brain back to the signals that everyone else already talked about. Oh, you need to intuitively eat. Well, I'm going to intuitively eat a pan of brownies.
Yeah, right.
You
Right.
know,
I
I
love
mean,
brownies. God, I
right?
love brownies with the chocolate, the frosting on them. They're so the corner cut out. It's
I was
so
going to say
good.
it's got to be the corner.
Oh, it's so good. I had a pan. I had a pan that was, have you seen these pans that's nothing but corners?
No.
Oh, yeah. So it's a brownie pan. My wife got it for me for Christmas years ago. It's a brownie pan. And it's in, like, those things they use for dogs so they can't just eat all the food at one
Yep.
time. But we just went around like a maze, and it literally cooked all corners.
All corners.
Oh, so,
Nice.
I mean, yeah. So sorry. I digressed.
No, but that's an important digression because exactly, like our brains are wired for that. And as a human brain, it is, right? We have a reward system. Our brains want us to keep us alive and procreating.
Yes.
We have a happiness drive. And what's the fastest way to get happiness if you're out in a social situation? It's either eating or drinking. Those are the two that'll get you.
Yes.
Because those are socially acceptable.
To your point about, I call it an organism. You described it much better than I do, but for a layman's term, I always said I had big people carrying all that weight don't understand you had another organism. I have a very visceral example of that. Since 2017, I have been hospitalized 71 times. I had AFib, 245 beats a minute that would last for days. They couldn't stop it. Had multiple heart surgeries to time to get it stopped. I have been cardioverted dozens of times. I've been cardioverted twice in one night, 3 times. When I had it went away. So all of that, all of the meds, and I mean massive amount of drugs, hundreds of milligrams every day. When I lost all of the weight so quickly, all of a sudden I'm not going, this is since 2017 I've been hospitalized that many times, either ER or directly into the hospital.
Wow.
And as I lost all of the weight, I started cutting back the medicine in half, and then in half again. And within 10 months, being down 110 pounds, and I started lifting weights, and now I'm walking 4 miles where I couldn't even walk a quarter mile on the first day. My health changed so significantly that I literally didn't need the meds anymore. So I came off almost all, I kept doing blood thinner, all of my meds. AFib returned in March of last year, came back with a vengeance, put me in the hospital 10 times. I had another ablation, and this time it worked. But here was the critical part. In those 10 times that I went in, I was cardioverted 3 of them. All cardioversions worked. And we quit doing cardioversions because I was too fat. And thank God I had the bet. I know them very well here at Williamson County, here in Tennessee. I had a ER doctor, and she said, just let me try to cardiovert you. You've lost all this weight. You've put on all this muscle. And I never even thought about that. I'm telling you what, somebody who lays in the hospital and they fill you full of diltiazem chemicals, then they just keep ramping it up to try to get maybe amiodarone, and they're doing all via IV, and it just wipes you out. Being cardioverted and going home is a fantastic outcome. And a long-winded way of saying, to your point, I literally changed my entire physiology. Every medical treatments that did not work on me before were now working on me just like that at much lower levels. It was I was more human, and I could just go home.
Yes.
It worked wonderfully. So to your point, I don't want it lost on people that it's another organism. I'm carrying another body around when you have that kind of weight.
Mhm. And it's not a cosmetic issue.
Yeah.
I've treated over 5,500 patients. I've had 2 that were using it inappropriately for cosmetic issues. And when we found out, because they were lying, because people are going to lie to you. People lie to you in person. People lie to you on telehealth. And people lie to your face in the ER.
Mm-hmm.
That was a
Yeah.
daily occurrence, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to understand, when the media portrays it that this is all a cosmetic issue, I don't know what they're trying to do or prove, but those of us who know, we know. You know how that changed. It changed your entire being.
Yep. Everything changed the way my brain worked.
Yes,
We
and
don't
that's the
think
kicker.
about that.
That's the most
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah, it absolutely. The first 30, 45 days, I was not only kicking sugar, but I was also kicking the opioids, which I quit cold turkey, 200 milligrams of oxymorphone every single day, massive amounts of pain meds to deal with this. And now all the pain's gone. I haven't had a pain med in 4.5 years after a 25-year addiction. So getting through those first 35 days was hell. But day 40 at 310 pounds, I never felt better. And I was still 300 pounds, but I never felt better. So when I got to 217 pounds, I really feel good. Now I put on 30 pounds of muscle and I feel like I'm 35 years old, but
Yeah.
this is in charge now, not that other organism, not that
Yep.
other person that I was carrying along with me.
Running the show.
Yeah, it's so true. So how do we, you mentioned the media, and social media is just terrible for all of these things. And shame is such a big part of health and weight conversations, even for successful adults. I suppose that's more of a natural thing. Why do you think shame plays such a big part in that?
So,
Let me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I
Yeah.
ask a question and then I interrupt you. Especially for successful adults, it
Yeah.
seems to be even more prevalent with the successful folks.
what I've observed is that we think we should be able to do it ourselves. We should be able to do it without help, without support groups, without a coach, without a mentor, without medication, without whatever. Take your pick. I'll give an example. I hid that medication. The generic name is tirzepatide. I hid it in my fridge for 3 weeks because I was embarrassed to tell my husband that I couldn't do it on my own.
That's good.
And it makes me want to cry.
Mhm.
Because it's more important that you do it. I always used to say in the ER, listen, I'll save your life, the rest is gravy.
Mhm.
Save your life, the rest is gravy. I don't care how you do it. Do it. If I could have held 6 months of clean eating, it would have done probably 65% of what this medication does for me. But I couldn't do it. And I had proven that I couldn't do it. I don't know if I'm genetically flawed, morally incompetent. Take your pick. Don't care. All I know is that it was a medication effect. I hadn't lost an ounce, but 8 hours after I took it, my brain was different. This is a mental health drug for me. People ask me, what are the side effects of a GLP-1? I said, weight loss.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's powerful, though. I think that really is, in particular, again, I'm the exception to the rule, so I apologize for that being the case, because I did just decided I had to live for myself and I couldn't count on anybody else. So much so, to that point, I say to people, they say, Jerry, I can't do it because my wife has ice cream in the house. And I say, well, if my weight, if my health, if my longevity, if my being here for my grandkids is dependent on what my wife eats, I'm hosed. That was just my approach to it. So she'd do whatever she wants because I'm not, again, if I'm not dependent upon her, but so many of us, we push That's what we do. High
Yeah.
achievers in particular, we
Yeah.
push. And the whole mantra is to push. And I'm not sure that I'm going to argue that all of the pushing that I do, and as intense as I am and as hard as I work, is not what is the way to get where you want to go. But setting that aside, from all those clients that you work for or worked with, on the earliest sign someone's running on fumes, other people seem to see that long before other people do. But how do you counter that with the reality that to do anything like what so many successful people are trying to do, it takes a superhuman effort?
It does take a superhuman effort. Absolutely. Like you have to work hard. And admittedly, well, the thing is, I worked really hard. I just wasn't successful. I mean, it sounds funny because I was successful in a lot of ways, but that one thing I could not conquer myself. I needed a tool. I needed a pencil. I couldn't,
Mhm.
I was done writing in blood. I needed a pencil. And I think one of the most important things that people need to realize is that it does take hard work, but if you put the hard work in the right places, on the right levers, that's when it releases, right? Because now you have systems, you just do things the same way. Like you said, you're not going to eat your wife's ice cream. That's like something that simple. Now, simple, not easy, but to get there, once you get there and you have that identity, this is what I do, you roll with that. And then you build on that identity, you build on those systems so that the next season, for a bit sometimes, is less work. Or more importantly, more work on the things that are your zone of genius. And I get that from The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, because you've got zone of competence, zone of excellence, and zone of genius. And a lot of us do our jobs in our zone of competence and excellence, where the world really needs us in our zone of genius. And that's flow. That's a flow state in sport. I mean, spent a lot of years in sport. That's the flow state. That's where you get up and you're doing what you love. You're on podcasts. You're talking to awesome people. You're living a life you created in a body that you love to live it in, right? You've got health, you've got time, and you've got income freedom. And that's where my book, Freedom to Shift, comes in, where it's health, time, and income freedom.
So to the point, freedom, you talk about health freedom. And I wonder, in a perfect world, I think that's easily definable. But what's it look like just like on a normal Tuesday for the normal guy? In the day-to-day life, you get up early in the morning, you go to bed late at night, you have kids and life and wife and husbands and all the things in the middle and school and PTA and all of those things. What does health freedom look like for an average Joe on an average Tuesday?
It's very individual. It is very individual because for me, health freedom is putting on my clothes without any thought, without, I'm uncomfortable in my pants. No, you're really uncomfortable in your skin. It's not the pants.
It's so good. I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you. It's so good. I said, Jerry, they'll say, what's the best thing about being, the people who knew me before and they don't see me forever and they don't even recognize me anymore. And they say, what's the best thing? I say, I go into my closet. Two things. I go into my closet and I just pull a shirt off of a hanger. It doesn't have to be the shirt, right? The one that hangs perfectly, the one that fits right, the one that my wife says, I can't wash it again. We got to throw that thing out. It's just any shirt. And then I can feel it when I put it on and it feels right and it hangs down at just the perfect level, all of those things. It's just it's the little things. Then also that my shoelaces are not tied on the inside, where I would have to pick my foot up to tie my shoe. And so the laces are always, the fact that I just put both shoes on at one time and then I tell you, Dr. Mo, I think about it every morning. I purposely put my shoes on differently than I have my entire life. I put them on and then I lean forward and I tie them both and I breathe while I'm doing it. And I think about that every single day.
That's freedom.
Yes.
That's freedom.
Yes.
And it sounds so simple, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but health freedom has to be this. I've got a bench, whatever. And I've got to, no, you know what? Sometimes I can tie my shoes and breathe at the same time.
It's so true. It's absolutely true. Yeah, that's a great example. So to that end, to finding that health freedom, you talk about all of the different ways of doing that: medication and nutrition and strength training and mindset. I have a little bit of, I have a big following on TikTok and it's all about my health and cardiomyopathy and all of those things. And so I've been able to talk to hundreds of people. I give my 4 miles I walk every day and I give it away. I say, just call me, whatever. I'll talk to you about with business, health, whatever you want to talk about.
Nice.
And so I've had these interactions with so many people. And what I've garnered from all of those conversations is that people want to avoid the things that matter the most.
100%.
The things that are most important,
100%.
like medication, nutrition, strength training, mindset, those things. They don't want to do that. Your thoughts?
They're hard. Well, like you said, the first 30 days, first 40 days, I'm flat out irritable and resentful. I just started a habit tracker, which I started it because my husband, God willing, he's been with me for over 30 years, saint. And he started this habit tracker. He's like, I never thought it would make a difference. And just the way it's structured, I don't know. It's a goofy thing on Apple. I don't know. It was $9 lifetime, whatever. It's on the App Store. One of the things I put in there after my dentist appointment the other day is flossing my teeth. And because she asks me every time I go to the dentist, she's like, you have a little bit of gingivitis? Like I always do. And she says, how's the tooth flossing? Like, it's not. I floss when I eat corn or chicken. Just throwing that out there. Maybe some
Have a
steak.
steak.
Yep. And she laughs. She's like, why don't you floss your teeth? I mean, obviously, I'm a doctor. I've been in health since I was 17. Like, I know the why. Education, not the problem. I am more educated than just about everybody else out there. Not the problem. Why do I not do it? And I finally told her this time, I said, I don't have the systems in place to get it done. And she looked at me and she just stopped. And I said, I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's because I don't like to do it. I feel like when I start it, it's a pain in the butt and it takes, a minute? If I were to time it, 60 seconds, it's a pain in the rear end. I don't like to do it. So I started this habit tracker. We are on now day 4. And I'm going to admit, I'm angry and I'm usually flossing my teeth in the morning because I don't want to do it. And I'm pitching a fit. And my internal toddler is like, I'm not going to do it. But I don't want one bar out of those 4 because it's a graph. It's like a ticker tape that goes across the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't want one to be blank.
Yeah.
It irritates me. But again, that's a system, right? It's just, why don't we attack the things that are hard? Because they're hard.
Yeah. And I think to that end, my advice is always those first 35 days for me were hell. Day 40, though, now I had a habit. And about day, 90 or 100 or 110, now I had a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And, 5 months in and down 60 pounds and walking 4 miles when I couldn't, it took me 24 minutes to walk a quarter mile the first day and I had to stop 3 times. And now I had a lifestyle. So I went on from habit and I went to a lifestyle. But part of that lifestyle is I track everything I eat religiously, even if I eat garbage. Even if I go have Texas Roadhouse, those buns with that butter, God, I love them. And I'm a carnivore, but they're so good. And if I eat 2 of them, I can tell you it's 400 calories. 400 calories. And right now I'm in another cut and I can only eat 2,000 a day. I put it in there because now I have to hold myself accountable to, I ate 400 calories of this doughy goodness that I shouldn't have, but it's just reality. And tomorrow's another day and I'm going to start all over again. But rather than not put it in there, I find that by tracking those things, I hold myself much more accountable.
I agree. And tracking is that which can be measured, can be changed.
Yeah. Good.
And the thing is, you did use a word that I'll challenge you on because you said you shouldn't eat. Now, I admit some foods are healthier than others. It's a spectrum for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want you to should all over yourself because you ate it. You knew it's in you're recording it. It's there.
Yeah.
You knowingly ate it. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm going. We're going to do this. And the level of, it's a risk benefit, right? So we talk about this in medicine a lot, but in real life, everything you do has a risk benefit. Are those 2 roles going to hurt your long-term goals? No. Unless you're allergic to something in them, different story, right? Then the risk is real high, benefits real low. But those 2 roles in the context, now it's the denial. It's where people say, oh, I'm just going to eat this today when they know damn well they're going to eat it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the difference.
And I appreciate that clarification because anyone who listens to me knows I will tell you, and I'll tell my wife and my daughter as we're going to Texas Roadhouse, I'm having buns, I'm having that cinnamon butter, and no one can stop me. And so I'm 100% aware. So I need to change my verbiage. So I appreciate that. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm having those buns
And
in
you're
there.
going
I'm
to
having.
enjoy every damn
I'm
bite.
like, you should see me cut it in half and put it on there. Try not to eat it so fast that it disappears. It's ridiculous. But I know exactly what I'm doing. So you make a good point. I jump in, but then but it has to go in the number, even though it's going to screw up my number. It's going in there, and I'm completely aware
Correct.
of that. So I like that. In the few minutes we have left, I want to ask you about you talked about children. Children are big point for me. Like I said, my son was born and my life changed. I had him at 20. We had him at 28, and I had two more kids after that. You said you had kids late in life. Talk to us about what that was like and what that did to your mindset. Kind of how'd you look at the world before versus how you look at it now? And did it help get you where you are now?
Unfortunately, it did not help get me where I am now. And I do have our son is 12. We have one. He's amazing. And I mean, isn't everybody's kid? I mean, let's be real. So, but he didn't get me to where I am now with this level of margin and this ability, this clarity. And it hurts me. It's funny you ask that I never put this together because some people, you are very good at seeing a moment in your life and saying, all right, this is the way things are going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I see them. I don't quite make the shift as quickly as I should. I'll throw that out there. And I look back on pictures. There was a Mother's Day photo from 3 years back that popped up on my phone last Mother's Day. And I was between shifts and I was laying on the couch and our son was small and he was kind of curled up, spooning sort of curled up with his iPad. And you could tell I was between shifts. I was in comfy clothes. I'm always in comfy clothes, let's be real. But I was curled up and I was sleeping, napping, dozing on the couch. And I posted this on social media and I said, Mother's Day looks a little different now. And I don't want to have regrets, but I wasn't present. I didn't have the mental clarity. I didn't have the physical ability. Oh, I loved him dearly. He had everything he could need and want except for me because I didn't have me either until I got to this point and had the courage to change.
Is it mean something different to you now then?
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. So
absolutely.
you can get there. So often
Yeah.
it's us that are in the way, not
Oh,
everybody else, isn't
100%.
it? Yeah. Yeah. Your your book, I'm going to pivot here for a real because we're going to run out of time and this is such a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate it, but I want you to give you a chance. I keep getting told to write a book. Everybody that comes on, I want to talk about your book real quick, but at the same time, tell you how jealous I am. I've not found the time. I've started, look here, I've got one blank book that somebody gave me, so that's empty to write a book, and two blank books, leather bound, that somebody gave me. There's no words in it to start writing my book. It sits right here next to me on my desk, and I've not done it yet. So tell me about the book and the process of writing it and how that went.
Well, I've wanted to write a book since I was about 8. And I published my first book called Happy First in 2020, January 2021, so 5 years ago. And Freedom to Shift is the new book. Much, much better. Obviously, I hope we don't get worse as we age, right? And it took a long time. It took a long time. And I think part of that is experience. You need to live it, you need it to settle, and then you need to just get it out there. I mean, I think my first book, I joked that I kind of vomited that book. It was like I needed to write a book, I needed to get it out there. It's shorter, it's easier. It was my journey out of the pit pretty much since 2009. I was in a rough spot.
Mhm.
And so that was my journey out of that and how to help other people. Because again, you want to send the elevator back down. So that was that. Now, Freedom to Shift, again, sending the elevator back down, much more tactical, made for high achievers. After I created this business by accident and realized, holy crap, why did I not do this before on purpose?
Yeah.
Because when your message gets big enough, it has to come out because it won't shut up.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. So you were that the incentive. Well, again, in a way, like when these things hit me in my life and I have to go out and perform, you felt that same way about writing that. At some point it just clicked and you're like, I got to get this. I got to get this out of me and I've got to show this to other people.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Quick little speed round here. I want some answers. No overthinking. couple of words. One word is fine, but just as brief as you can be on a couple of these questions that I think are relevant to what it is that you're doing and what the folks need to hear. Number one is, what is the most overrated health advice?
That willpower wins.
That one's tough for me. One habit high performers refuse to let go of that's quietly draining them.
Doing tasks other people are better at.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that answer a lot. Yep. Doesn't mean that you don't know how to do it. Doesn't mean you have to do it. You should know how to do it, but it's fine to let other people do it. And particularly things that you're not good at, just let people that are better at it do it. The biggest lie people tell themselves about being busy.
That they have to be.
What people call discipline that is actually neglect or self-neglect.
Losing sleep.
Guilty. I'm trying to get 7 hours this year. I've been historically at about 5.5, 6. It's the one thing I do not do well. I agree with you 100% on that. Last one. The fastest way someone starts getting their energy back. Maybe to ask that question a different way. What's one thing they can start in a mountain of things that they need to do? They're me 5 years ago. What's the one thing that they can do to start getting their lives back?
A calendar audit.
You're talking about write a day down and figure out what they actually are spending their time on?
Well, technically their day should already be written down.
Right. True. Yeah.
But yes, you need to dump it. You need to, like, Getting Things Done style by James Allen. You need to put everything in your calendar and see what you're actually spending your time on, because when you look at it, number one, you're going to be mortified, be prepared. But number two, you need to get your energy back by literally taking it back from the things that don't serve you.
The last question, the medicine, I'm happy to hear that you talked about that and that you're on that, because this was literally my last question. I'm an advocate for that, for all the reasons that we talked about. The problem with that I see, though, is that if you eat less crappy food, when you go off the meds, you're going to go back to eating more crappy food. And so there are changes, not along with what you just said, that have to take place and disciplines that you have to get. You can't fool yourself. The drug is not magical in my estimation, that you need to bring along some of these other changes along with it. As we go out from your perspective, if you agree with that, and feel free to correct me, but how do you get that message out from your perspective?
So I think that's a twofold question, because those of us who've struggled with food noise or poor metabolic health, I really prefer to call it metabolic health rather than obesity, because that's the effect, right? We have poor metabolic health, therefore we store excess body fat, right? When we talk about it, look at that. When I take the morality out, it gets it all you're like, oh, this is just data. Funny that. And so but I really think there's two things in that. Number one, you're assuming people are going to go off. If you have a chronic health condition, you're not going to go off your meds, first of all. That also does not mean that you don't put the habits in there. Healthy is healthy. Doesn't matter if you're on a med or off. You've got to you don't have to. Best options for you to be as healthy as long as possible are appropriate strength training, are appropriate food quality and intake, are appropriate hours of sleep, relationships, stress levels, strength training, all of the things. Those are healthy, on the mat or off, unrelated. You're always going to want to be progressing and building into those habits. I don't care if you're on diltiazem, it doesn't matter. You're not going to not lift weights because you're on diltiazem. So I don't even know why these are in the same conversation. Well, it's because of the morality issue. How about we don't make it a morality issue? We keep it a medical issue where it should be. Health is health, medical's medical.
Yeah, I agree. That's fantastic. What a great conversation. You have a fantastic background. Everybody, Dr. Mo, you can find her at AMS Lifestyle Medicine. That's AMSLifestylemedicine.com. And her book is Freedom to Shift. And what does shift stand for?
Success happens in focused transitions.
If I was a really good interviewer, I would have that in my show notes, but I did not have it. So I appreciate you giving us that. And if anybody wants to, we also have start at shiftwithdrmo.com. Is that also, what's that one?
That one you can get to the medical care there. I do coach high achievers. So not just the medical part is the medical part, right? And then I coach high achievers. And I also have a program specifically for physicians who want to take their practice either hybrid or remote.
And we will, of course, link all of that in the show notes as we go out, Dr. Mo. What would you like to tell the folks? How can they get a hold of you any other way other than this? And basic and with your ending message here, what do you want them to hear as we go out?
So the biggest thing that I want people to hear is that starting today doesn't mean accomplishing everything today.
Good. You can't lose all 100 pounds tomorrow?
Right? I wish. I ate a salad. Why am I not healthy?
Right, right. That's almost it's almost cliche, but it's so true, right? You just got to start.
Just go. Just go.
Yeah.
Just build. Just start building because it's really fun when you do.
I appreciate it, guys. Go check her out. Go check out her websites, and please buy her book. This has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jerry.